The FBI defines a serial killer or a serial murder as the same offender's killing of two or more victims in separate events with similar characteristics, and a period in between murders referred to as separate occasions, cooling off period, and the emotional cooling off period. Although not every serial killer is the same, serial killers have different motives and MOs. According to the FBI, motivations of a serial killer could be anger, ideology, sexual, power, real, mental illness, criminal enterprise, or for financial benefit. Serial killers also have victim preference, selecting a victim based on vulnerability, availability, and desirability, which means preference on gender, race, age, ethnicity, physical appearance, or other specific factors. According to the FBI, there is a link between psychopathy and serial killers. Psychopathy is a personality disorder that is characterized by someone who was born lacking empathy, impulsive, manipulative, charming, and violent to fulfill one's own needs. Psychopaths and sociopaths often get mixed up, but a psychopath is thought of as born, and a sociopath is made due to the environment. However, not all violent criminals are psychopaths or sociopaths, and not all psychopaths or sociopaths are violent. Psychopathy does not fully explain what makes a serial killer. It is only a part of the explanation. When thinking of a serial killer, a common misconception is they mostly come from broken homes or have a criminal record. While that may be right for some serial killers, on the other hand, some serial killers lived ordinary lives and were even considered outstanding members of society. Has its fair share of serial killers, one of the most prolific serial killers in the history of China was Gao Chengyong. China's Jack the Ripper, Gao Chengyong, was born on the 10th of November 1964 in Yuzhong County, Gansu, China. Zhao grew up in Xinjiang, in the northeast province of China. He was considered a dutiful son, if a little emotionally detached, who cared for his father after the elder Chengyong suffered from a bout of paralysis. Zhao is said to have suffered bitterly after he failed to become a pilot, which he claimed was due to political reasons. Yet despite these rather conventional childhood and early adulthood challenges, Zhao's early life is said to be unremarkable. Zhao's first murder was in May 1988, the year his son was born. The victim, a 23-year-old woman, was found in Baiyin with 26 stab wounds to her body. Subsequent murders followed a similar pattern, with the killer often targeting young women who lived alone. Zhao also cut off parts of his victim's reproductive organs. His youngest victim was 8 years old. Women in Baiyin would not walk alone in the streets without being accompanied by male relatives or friends after the spate of attacks. The killings stopped in 2002, but it was only years later that a breakthrough came, when Zhao's uncle was arrested for a minor crime. Zhao stopped killing in 2002, and no one knows why. The Ripper is believed to have halted his killing spree in 1889, which at the time confounded investigators. It has since been theorized that the suspect was either committed to an asylum or sent to jail due to another, unrelated crime. Zhao was captured only after a close relative was brought into custody on an unrelated charge. His DNA was taken, and the sample was a near match to the Baiyin slayings. Police then sampled his relative's DNA, which is what led them to Zhao. He gave a DNA sample, which police then linked to the crimes, determining they must have been committed by a relative, which was later confirmed to be Zhao. In 2016, Zhao was arrested at the grocery store where he worked. While never arrested, Jack the Ripper was recently unmasked by a forensics investigator who used a suspect's descendant's DNA to identify Polish immigrant Aaron Kosminski. whose DNA was found at one of the scenes of a Jack the Ripper murder. At the time of his arrest, Gao had been married for over 30 years and had 2 sons. His eldest was born in 1988, which was the exact year of Gao's first murder. No one knows what set Gao off on his murderous spree, or what specifically tormented the man so much that he committed some of China's most gruesome killings. So gruesome, in fact, that his crimes drew comparisons to those of one of the most famous serial killer of all time. Even the way Gao was apprehended bears similarity to the original Jack the Ripper. Police collected enough DNA evidence to tie several murders together, but could not connect the DNA to anyone registered in Baiyin province, where the murders were committed. That's because Gao never registered in Baiyin, he only registered in nearby Gansu province where he lived. Over the course of 14 years, Gao raped, murdered and mutilated 11 women, 9 in Baiyin, Gansu province, and 2 in Baotou, Inner Mongolia. His youngest victim was 8 years old. The first murder is thought to have originated in a grocery store he managed with his wife in Baiyin. He would normally operate in daytime and follow his victims home, where he would strike. Gao raped his victims sometimes while they were alive, and sometimes after having stabbed them to death. He removed the reproductive organs of some women after killing them and cut the hands and breasts off of at least one of his victims, leading to the media comparing him to the unidentified serial killer Jack the Ripper, who committed at least 5 murders in the East End of London in the 1880s. He also robbed his victims. Gao's wife stated that she noticed that her husband would disappear from the house, for days at a time. However, she never suspected him to be a serial killer. Because he always came home with money, she assumed that he had left to do casual work. Police linked the 11 murders for the first time in 2004 and offered a reward of 200,000 yuan. Gao Chengyong confessed to the 11 murders. Gao was sentenced to death and stripped of all his assets on the 30th of March 2018, and was executed on the 3rd of January 2019. The method of execution used was not disclosed. It is not clear how the execution was carried out, though death sentences in China are mostly carried out by lethal injection or a firing squad. Gao Chengyong was 54 years old at the time of his execution. Thank you for watching Death Row.